I will call this regular city council meeting of July 10th, 2018 to order. We had 2 or 3 open forum cards that were presented to the days this evening, and what they wanted to speak about is going to be on the agenda at an open meeting. So we have no speakers for the open forum at this time. So if you'll all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. At this time, I would move the approval of the minutes of the special city council work session of June 26, 2018, and the regular city council meeting of June 26, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next item calling for a motion is the approval of the agenda, and before I make that motion, I would like to remove from the agenda item 7, the consideration of the adoption of a resolution granting an amendment to the planned unit development to allow construction of a K-8 school at 6500 Nicollet Avenue, the old Bremer Bank site. So I would move that item 7 be removed from the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item is removed. And at this time, then, I would move the amended agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Amended agenda is passed. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. City manager?
No hometown hits.
Whoa, jumped right past that. And with the 4th of July last week?
Right.
Councilmember Garcia has a special announcement that she'd like to make.
Thank you. You know, it's kind of getting to be a tradition that when anyone in our neighborhood, in our city, community passes, we'd like to acknowledge them because we consider them community builders. People that have lived here and have worked here and have made their life in our great community. And tonight I want to acknowledge, we have on the Planning Commission a young man, Sean Hayford O'Leary, who his folks were from Richfield. His grandmother lived in Richfield, and when his parents moved, then the grandmother stayed here, and Sean also made his home here. He was involved in the Human Rights Commission and then the Planning Commission, and he's very much of an integral part of the discussion of the fabric of our community, as what's happening. And you hear him and you see him on social media, and he's really quite a very bright young man. Well, his mother passed away, and I would want to acknowledge her, because if you looked at today's column, Margaret Hayford O'Leary, she was a Norwegian teacher. She taught at St. Olaf College in Northfield for 40 years. 40 years, you know, that's, and one of the things that she did, she was very involved in education. She not only taught, but she co-authored language textbooks. She published a book on Norwegian culture and customs. She taught at the University of Oslo International Summer School. And in 2016, she received the Royal Norwegian Order of Merit. That is a very, very special dedication to one's birth country. She passed away of cancer. She was very, very young, 67. One of the things that she did in part of her teaching and part of her spreading information about her Norwegian roots and her love of her country and her love of this country was to play the guitar and she was a leader in a folk singing group, and that's a great way, you know, to really establish communication and to really, you know, make your way in life, because there's nothing like the beauty of music, and we really appreciate that. Like I said, you know, we know Sean very, very well. And Sean, when he first started working in Richfield, you know, we quickly got to know him because he always shared, you know, what he thought or his ideas, his suggestions, whatever. And pretty soon we got to know him so well that it was automatic that we all became friends. So we want to wish Sean Hayford and Leary's family, his dad Douglas, his sister Carrie, and his brother Eric, and his grandmother Rachel Hayford of Richfield. We want to send them our condolences, and we want to make sure that they know that our thoughts and our prayers are with our family. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. We all join in the sentiments. Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, Sean, we're sorry for your loss, and your mother's incredible woman. But on a lighter note, I do want to just take my hats off for our 4th of July committee for Red, White, and Blue Days here in Richfield. Hopefully everybody had a chance to participate in the festivities, which I think were incredibly well run. But I just wanted to take just a minute to talk about some of the extraordinarily, just the level of excellence that they brought. One, the 3-day event fell on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So our planning team took off a lot of personal time. And so in addition to all the hours, they took personal time off to run the events. They did a great job. They dealt with weather. They dealt with any number of curveballs. It was a great event. All calls for service from police and fire were down, and I think that just reflects the great organization and the great programming. Hats off to the mayor, who nearly took a chair in the ring, in the professional wrestling ring. And the fireworks, hats off to Best Buy for sponsoring that. And if you missed it for any reason, we do 4th of July really well in Richfield. So hats off to Richfield.
Thank you. Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez.
I'd also like to echo thank you to their city staff, to all the residents who were on the volunteer committee for 4th of July. It's the biggest event of the year, and we see so many families and residents come out for the 4th, and it takes a lot of work to make that happen. So I just want to echo what Councilmember Troutman said and give a big thanks to all the folks who helped make that happen, and to all of the families who participated and all of the residents who showed up and were a part of it as well. And I just have one other item that I want to share. So we have a Noise Oversight Committee listening session coming up on July 17th at 7 p.m. and it's here at Richfield City Hall, and I'm just going to give a short description of what it is for residents. The MAC Noise Program Office holds quarterly listening sessions for residents to receive updates on the Noise Oversight Committee and its activities, to be briefed on operations and procedures, and have the opportunity to provide comments and voice concerns about aircraft noise issues. During the sessions, attendees are welcome to make comments or ask questions. There will be a facilitated process, and anyone is welcome to come. So if you'd like to attend, we are a member of the Noise Oversight Committee, and we are asking for residents to please come and listen, learn what's going on at the airport, and if you have any concerns about airport noise, this is a great platform to ask questions and share those concerns. So that's Thursday, July 17th at 7 p.m. here in City Hall. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Howard.
Just want to add my thanks to all the volunteers and all the folks that came out over the 3-day Red, White, and Blue Days from Family Night, which was a whole lot of fun,
to the 4th of July parade and the fireworks. It was a roaring success again, and it wouldn't be without all the volunteers and all the Richfield residents that hang around in Richfield and have a great time. And then I only just had one item. I want to make sure folks know there's a work session on Monday, July 16th at 6 p.m. To continue to discuss our city's policies around affordable housing and tenant protections. We've had many good discussions, and we'll be taking the next step to discuss next steps for the city, and I know that's something that the community's been very interested in, so I want to make sure that folks have that on their calendar if they're interested in attending.
Thank you. Just following up on that, yesterday I had the opportunity to go down. There's a meeting of the regional council, regional mayors down at the Dorsey and Whitney law firm, and yesterday one of the primary areas, well, two areas, they talked about the synergy between a city and its school districts, and they spent a lot of time on that, discussing that and how to best improve it and everything. A lot of the things that we've initiated in Richfield already in terms of having more frequent meetings and also be collaborative, and what's good for the city is good for the school, and what's good for the school is good for the city. And I know that John Stark and Julie Urban were down there, had an opportunity to tell a large group of people some of the opportunities and some of the things we're doing in Richfield, and also indicating it's just a start, but there's a number of things that are being looked at, and whatever is going to benefit or maintain the affordable housing in Richfield is things that we can keep doing moving forward. And then it probably shouldn't shame anybody at this particular session, but it's in good fun and good jest. And the chief of police owes me a big favor, because I almost took a hit from the guy called the executioner because he chose to be in Michigan, and said the only thing that saved me is the guy that was holding my arms waiting to get me hit says, when I say duck, duck. And believe me, I ducked and got out of the way. But it was enjoyable, and it's remarkable. Think what you will of professional wrestling. Those guys are incredible athletes. They have a good time. It's orchestrated. Nobody's going to get hurt, and the fans just love it. And being able to participate is something I can pass on to my grandchildren, and I'm not going to tell them what we talk about in the locker room before we go out there. So, but it was an outstanding 4th of July. I was amazed walking down 70th Street, the number of people, and we managed to. I think we ran out of candy the last half block. Mm-hmm. So we were heroes all the way through, and that's kind of enjoyable. So, Councilmember Howard.
I was just going to say, in maybe your next life, I feel like the mayor would be a nice. Has a nice ring to it on the professional wrestling circuit.
You know, unless there's a growth drug out there that adds 10 inches and about 100 pounds, I don't think it's going to work very well. But no, I appreciate the thought. It was enjoyable. So,
Okay.
And once again, back to Councilmember Garcia for.
You know, I feel a little embarrassed because I have 18.
Well, we always count on that.
And I know, but these kids, I feel bad for them. I should share maybe. I mean, I don't mean kids, I mean younger council members.
I appreciate that thought greatly for me. So
anyway, you know, talking about the 4th of July, we did get a letter or a note from a constituent that said they had been out to Vets Park on the 4th of July at night, and that everything, it was a mess. You know, people left their food stuff and cups and just all kinds of stuff, litter stuff. And she said she went the next morning, really early in the morning, and the park was clean. And she emailed us to say thank you. And we have to transfer that thank you to our staff, who really, I mean, that was really super. Because a lot of people do enjoy to get out early in the morning and to have the park being restored to, you know, to being special. It's nice. First, I wanted to acknowledge the Richfield Police Department because this year they raised $10,300 for the Special Olympics. It's a nonprofit representing athletes with intellectual disabilities. And that's really, really special. And it takes people with a real heart and a lot of patience. And according to Chief Henthorn, I mean, he said, of all of the things that the police do, this is their favorite. And I don't doubt that, because that's the kind of police department we have. When we talk about police being in the community, this is one example. So thank you, Chief. Okay. I also wanted to acknowledge our Sun Current editor, Cam Bonelli, and I wanted to acknowledge her because with the last issue of the Richfield Sun, she acknowledged something, and I think what we're going to have to name her an honorary member of the Hometown Hits, because she acknowledged that there are many amenities and many things happening in the city of Richfield that are free or low cost, that are part of our community. And she says, you know, with all of the things going on, there's no reason for a person to sit home and say, I'm bored. Because, and I could just go ahead and name them, but being that I've got 17 more items, but that's nice that our editor knows this and acknowledges it, and you know, it kind of gives us, you know, a little boost, and we appreciate that, editor. The next thing is Wood Lake Nature Center is having a goat yoga. I don't know what that is, but it costs $25, and it's on for 45 minutes. The mats are provided. All you have to do is bring water, and this is Saturday, September the 15th, and Saturday the 29th, and you can register online.
Councilmember, are the goats provided, or do you have to bring your own?
I don't know. Good question. The other thing is National Night Out is coming up August the 7th, and if you want to be part of National Night Out, please contact the police department. The deadline is July the 24th, and the National Night Out is August the 7th from 6 to 9. Another item is absentee voting has begun, and it will go on until August the 13th. So if you're going to be out of town or you plan on being sick, I'm just kidding on that. Okay, the other thing is Pilgrims Dry Cleaners. They are gathering Boy Scout uniforms for those kids that want to participate in Boy Scouts but don't have the means to buy the uniforms. And so if you have any Boy Scouts or any old uniforms, especially shirts, or if you just want to donate money, you can go to any the Pilgrim Dry Cleaners, and this goes on until July the 31st. Then the Home Alone Safety Session will happen once more. These are very, very popular for kids that are at home, and that's, again, will take place on the 23rd at Central Educational Center, 7145 Harriet, right by the high school. And there's a limit of 20 kids, and it's $25, but they'll receive, it's a whole day event, and they'll receive snacks, and they'll have lunch too. The Richfield History Center will have concerts, one on July the 18th at 10 a.m. No, that's not a concert. That's July the 18th at the Richfield Community Center. They're going to have a speaker come and share a little bit about Richfield. And that night on the 18th, they will have Tim Cheesebrow that will be playing. Let's see. And the other thing at the Richfield History Center, July the 21st, from 2 to 4 p.m., you can go and tour the Bartholomew House, and you can see a demonstration of a blacksmith. You can have some dandelion tea, and there's going to be a little presentation as to how Richfield and dandelions, have a relationship. So, I mean, I'm sure that's going to be interesting. And on the 22nd, from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Richfield History Center, they're going to have baseball from 12 to 4 p.m., and it's baseball from the 1800s. So we want to participate in that. Otherwise, let's see, I'll just do this real quick. Augsburg Park, July the 12th at 7 p.m., potluck string band. And then on the 13th at noon, and this is for kids, and if I were running for public office, I would go to these where there's kids and parents. It's Brodeen's Comedy Show. On the 17th of July, there's at Bob at noon. Bob, the beachcomber, will be there. And then the 19th at 7 p.m., it's a concert by the Socialholics. And then on the 24th, there is another concert, Will Hell in the Tadpole Parade. And that's at noon again. And then finally, on the 24th, the neighborhood crime watch captains will meet at 7 p.m. at the Richfield Middle School. And I believe that's it. I hope you're still awake.
Still am. Thank you very much. Now it's time for the consent calendar. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The consent calendar, for those in the audience, contain several separate items which are acted upon by the City Council in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and their recommended actions will also have been approved, and they require no further action. We start tonight with item A, consideration of the adoption of a resolution granting a subdivision waiver allowing the division of 7428 Bryant Avenue into 2 lots. Item B, consideration of the adoption of a resolution authorizing an interim use permit to allow Richfield Bloomington Honda to use city-owned property at 7700 Pillsbury Avenue for employee parking. Item C is consideration of the adoption of a resolution calling for a public hearing on the modification of the redevelopment plan for the Richfield redevelopment project area, the modification to the tax increment financing plan for the Cedar Avenue Tax Increment Financing District, and establishment of a tax increment financing district number 2018-1. And then finally, consideration of the adoption of a resolution appointing election judges for the state primary election of August 14th, 2018, and the general election of Tuesday, November 6th, 2018. And that concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Thank you. I would move the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent calendar is passed. Next item on the agenda is item 5, Councilmember Howard.
I have a public hearing in consideration of the adoption of a resolution approving the 5-year street reconstruction plan, that's from 2019 to 2023, and authorizing the issuance of street reconstruction bonds to finance the 2019-2020 reconstruction projects. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Pearson, our city engineer, to present our 5-year reconstruction plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As council member said, I'm Jeff Pearson, city engineer. Just going to give kind of an overview of our 5-year street reconstruction plan that we're proposing, and answer any questions that you might have leading into that. So on the screen here is a map of the projects that were laid out on the postcard and in your council packet. Just going by year, we have identified Lindale Avenue reconstruction as a 2019 project. 65th Street, what we're calling 65th Street Central, which is basically from Ray Drive connection to 66th Street over to Nicollet, and as well as the portion of Lindale that was not reconstructed as part of the Crosstown Storm Sewer Project. So that would be from 63rd down to 66th. 2021, we currently have 70th Street reconstruction identified, and what that is, basically there is a 84-inch storm sewer pipe under that segment of 70th Street. And the water, the Portland Avenue reconstruction connected into that 84-inch pipe. When they were doing so, they realized that that pipe is deteriorating pretty quickly. They did some short-term fixes, but we're continually monitoring the condition of that pipe. We just know that eventually we're going to have to reconstruct it, replace it, and that would necessitate the road reconstruction at that time. The projects that are not, would not fall under the bond funding are identified on the map as Richfield Parkway, south of the roundabout. That's basically from 66th Street down to 68th Street. That will be reconstructed. Actually, that closure takes effect this week. It's being done as part of that Chamberlain redevelopment. It's not a city project, so to speak, where we bid out and hired a contractor. It's being done as part of their project. Obviously, we're involved with it, but it's being funded through their project. 77th Street underpass, that is a number of different sources of outside funding, but that is set to begin in 2019. Jumping back into the bond projects, the last one we had identified as 76th Street reconstruction. That's over on the west side from Penn Avenue to Xerxes Avenue. And we did an overlay of that roadway in 2016. It's kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. But we do know that the base is in a condition that will need reconstruction eventually. All total, these projects identify, including the mill and overlay, which I didn't touch on because it's already been approved and it's in its cycle. But that we have additionally 31 miles of mill and overlay left in our program. Then the roads identified are 3.3 miles of reconstruction streets. As well as with those reconstructions, we do replace the utilities underneath, which are becoming, deteriorating over time. So why now? Why are we looking at these projects? Well, we really take a few different things into consideration. Pavement condition is primarily what kind of gets everybody's attention. Our roads are old and deteriorating all the time, and even with preservation plan condition will necessitate something, addressing it in some way. Infrastructure tipping point, I think I had mentioned this when we were here talking about this a couple of years ago, but our infrastructure is pretty much all the same age. It was all put on in at the same time, and it's all getting to that point where it needs to be addressed and or replaced. And so that's something, as I mentioned, with that 84-inch storm. And then the question of resurfacing versus reconstruction, resurfacing being like a mill and overlay versus a full reconstruction. Here's just some pictures on the left. That's a sanitary sewer pipe that failed, that we had to dig up a portion of Lindale Avenue and fix. And then the center is our current sidewalks, where they're right against the back of curb and settling and holding water when it snow melts or we get rainfall. And the far right is just an example of our local streets, which really it's just that surface that needs to be replaced. The base is in good condition, and so our mill and overlay program will address that. When we talk about resurfacing, as I mentioned, all of our residential streets are in that 36 to 41-year-old range. And most are actually in fair condition. When we went through that process, we determined that the base is really good. We have good sand base. We have a deep enough asphalt that bottom portion of the asphalt's not deteriorating. And we've done a fairly robust pavement management program over the years to maintain that asphalt. So a mill and overlay, we determined that we could still get another 20 plus years out of our streets by just doing that. When it comes to reconstruction on those streets, we're seeing older infrastructure, more used. So in your sanitary and water, it's larger pipes. In your pavement, it's higher volumes, bigger vehicles. We look at the base and underground utility condition. A lot of these reconstructions, the base is just so deteriorated that doing a mill and overlay like 76th Street, we'll hold it together for a few years, but is not the ultimate answer. And so in those situations, a fold-up reconstruction is critical. And we can really do these projects two ways. A lot of cities use direct assessments. They assess the property owners along the corridors. A decision the council made a few years back when we started kind of the mill and overlay and street reconstructions was that because, as you remember the map, it's really all over the city, that we would go citywide, at least at that time. We had that aggressive street program, mill and overlay program. The reconstruction projects are primarily on citywide corridors that it's not just the local traffic, the residential traffic that's using. And then, as I mentioned, the past project precedent, in previous council decisions, they've chosen to go to this citywide format. So that's the overview. I will point out one thing, and I believe you were handed out kind of a revised or clarified postcard. The postcard that went out citywide, we unfortunately caught too late that the chart on the back that deals with the estimated annual property tax increase was kind of confusing. So we've made some edits. We'll post this on our Sweet Streets page. And I'll see if I can pull it up on the. So that in the previous postcard, unfortunately, the 2021 column was a cumulative. So when you read it as estimated annual property tax increase, it looked like there was an additional $38 increase in 21, and I'm just reading off the first $150,000 line. But in reality, that was it was cumulative. So what the chart should have shown is that the annual increase in that year would be a smaller increment. It's not that larger increment. And the 2019 is really for context only, that reflects previously approved projects and bonds. So that's not part of this what we're considering tonight. Any other questions?
Yeah, if I may, Jeff. I'm curious, I mean, the map's very colorful, and you indicated it's citywide. I'm curious, my recollection is 2 or 3 years ago when we were talking about the infrastructure and reworking it and everything, that Penn at least made the list. It's not even,
Yep.
It's not even on the list 2023, so, and Nicolet's not there either.
Right, and that's a good question.
And I'm wondering on some of these short strips and everything, how we're prioritizing the roads that carry a lot of traffic and need repair, and yet even aren't on the radar through 2023.
Yep, no, that's a good point, and it's actually something we've heard from the public since the postcard went out is what about these streets, and in particular Penn, heard a couple times. The county roads are in our CIP. We identify them as a need in our CIP, and that's the capital improvement plan. So that they're identified, but we chose to, until we could get commitment from the county to be the primary lead on those projects. We went through it with Portland. We kind of made the decision that we want them to lead those county road projects. And we're certainly funding partners and funding match partners that at the point where they've put up the money, so to speak, and identified the projects, then they would come into our street reconstruction plan for the programming within our funding program.
So we have to wait until the county commits to improve its roads. And I mean, because if Penn is a county road, it's incumbent upon them as well as us to make sure that it's passable and drivable. What leverage do we have to make them pick up their responsibility?
Well, we continue to lobby them from a staff level, and I would encourage from a resident levels and a policymaker level. But you know, we have written letters encouraging, every time the CIP comments come out, we've encouraged them to move. They do have it identified in their non-funded portion of their CIP, which doesn't do us much good. But we've encouraged them to move it into a funded project. You know, beyond that, you really, when you, in our experience with Portland Avenue, when we led the project, you end up getting a little burned financially, as opposed to when the county, obviously they have a match requirements, but when you're the lead agency on the project, your risk is a bit more financially.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
No question, but just a comment that I do think in the overall, this is, again, a plan that really has us looking to the future, not just, 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, but 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and making the kinds of investments in our infrastructure that are going to pay off down the road. So this seems to me like the right plan, and of course, more to work at when we look at our county roads as well. So with that, I would.
Councilman Member Howard,
Yep.
I just wanted to take a minute to say this is a painful vote for me, and just like the mayor mentioned, it's tough in Ward 1 to see Penn not be on the list. And I've talked with our director Kristen Asher a number of times, and folks on the Transportation Commission, and I want to appreciate their advocacy for Penn and their discipline. We're very mindful of the taxpayers' dollars. We want to use it prudently, and we don't want to be overpaying with a county road. And so I just want to acknowledge that, and acknowledge your continued work, and encourage you guys in that. And just also say that there are a couple of things that we don't want to get wrong as a city, and having falling apart roads is not one of those things. And particularly, and maybe you can speak to this just a little bit, some of the consequences of not addressing the roads, that if we don't do it now, there are additional costs like increased interest rates, like further deterioration that requires more rebuild than we would. Could you just take a minute, just talk about a little bit of the timing of why now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll start at kind of the lowest level, those underground utilities. We have a number of water main breaks every year, and we have to dig down. We have to excavate, cut open the street, dig down, fix those, and obviously that takes a toll on the surface, especially if you've invested money on your pavement surface and reconstruction. On our residential streets where we're doing our mill and overlay, we're looking at alternative. Obviously, we did not dig up all of those utilities. We're looking at alternative. You can do a lining in place, and so we're still addressing those utilities, but in a different way. On these full reconstruction projects, I will go back on the mill and overlay. We determined that if we did not do a mill and overlay, if we just let those deteriorate to the point of full reconstruction, that it was about 10 times the cost to do those as reconstruction. So you're saving yourself money in that way. On a reconstruction project, a lot of it is that infrastructure that you're worried about. You can put Band-Aids on it for a number of years, the pavement surface, but in a situation like 70th Street, when you have an 84-inch storm sewer pipe, you don't want that to fail. That's pretty devastating if that fails. So you kind of want to stay ahead of that and address those utilities. And certainly, as you mentioned, every year, costs generally go up. Asphalt's made of oil, and oil prices are very, they fluctuate a lot. In general, they keep going up. So,
thank you.
And this is a public hearing, so if there are folks in the public that are here who'd like to speak to this, now would be your opportunity.
Sure. Good evening, council members. My name is Jamie Roselle, and I lived at 7020 Oak Grove Boulevard. I am part of the Oak Grove Boulevard Coalition that has strongly spoken against the roundabout on 70th and Lyndale due to the significant decrease in livability by cutting down a precious resource of green space and the potential for a decrease in safety of bicyclists and pedestrians. I am assuming you're all aware of the MnDOT report on roundabout safety that came out last fall. The report was very clear that roundabouts do reduce speed, which reduces serious car accidents. However, in that report, it documented an increase in pedestrian accidents. That is a major concern of mine. Considering 70th is a main road to the high school, and Lyndale is a main road in Richfield, and Oak Grove is a street that is used by many walkers, runners, and bikers because of the beauty and the tranquility of our neighborhood. This is a perfect storm for an increase of pedestrian and bicycle accidents. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend one public meeting at the project because I have 2 daughters that play hockey. And for those parents in the room with kids that play hockey, you know the time commitment that exists. At the meeting that I did go to, I did raise the issue of pedestrian safety and recommended installing flashing lights to warn cars of approaching pedestrians and bicyclists. Do you know what I was told? It was too expensive. I ask you, is a human life worth less? Shame on them for the disregard of human life. My concern has also been the manager and transportation engineers of lack of transparency within the process, taking 8 days to provide information we requested, and then feeling bulldozed by this project. When I realized the increase in the property taxes, I became even more frustrated with the inability to see beyond the best for this area. Our neighborhood already pays an exorbitant amount of property taxes to live here, and now you'll be increasing again to pay for a project that we do not support, nor will improve our overall livability. The average tax burden for an Oak Grove resident is $5,000 plus annually in property taxes. Myself and fellow neighbors have concerns of inability to access Lyndale going north. My assumption is Oak Grove will see an increase of traffic on our street due to the frustrated drivers on Lyndale. Once drivers come off the roundabout on 70th, they will turn down Oak Grove to access 76th Street, hence utilizing our street for a shortcut, which currently occurs. We do not allow our girls to bike or rollerblade on Oak Grove without one of us standing in the middle of the road to stop traffic. Just for reference, my girls are 12 and 7. Food for thought. The city is trying to implement a European roundabout and a culture of aggressive drivers. American culture, get as much done as fast as you can. I ask you to pay attention to your own driving once you leave a roundabout and see how quickly your foot presses on the gas. I ask you to comprehend, digest, and ask you to comprehend and digest what I have told you and come back with a clear vision that is fair for all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Vicki Forsland. I live at 6624 Morgan. And I'm here because of the card regarding the 5-year street reconstruction plan. Back in 2004, our city fees started at $1.45 a month, and that was put on our electric and gas bills. Each year, okay, now it's $4.10 on the electric and the gas. That totals $98.40. Our street light fees are quarterly of $5.77 for a total of $23.08. So the total for those two, $98.40 and $23.08, comes to $121.48, of which we cannot take off our property taxes because it's a separate fee. Okay, now you're proposing Richfield residents pay an annual property tax increase for Richfield suite streets based on our property value. Well, I don't think that's fair. If every household in citywide Richfield is paying the same in city fees for gas and electric bills, as well as street light fees, the street reconstruction fees should be the same for everyone, not based on property values. The card mentions property values of $150,000 would pay $58.37 the first year. I don't believe there's a house in Richfield that is valued at $150,000. Maybe, of course, a foreclosure property of which a contractor will pick up, you know, refurbish it and sell it and make some big money. So it looks like my one-car garage and my no eat-in kitchen and my one-car garage, my amount would be $130. In my block, there is a widow who does not drive at all. Also down the road is a house that has 6 to 7 cars every day and every night. We all use the same roads and should not be segregated according to our house values. Every household pays the same for streetlight fees, city fees, and the same should be reflective of the street taxes. No mention has been brought to light as to what the businesses are going to pay. All they're talking about is the household. As property values are rising, Richfield is a hot place to be. I talked with a neighbor and she said she has a friend who lives in Edina who would like to move to Richfield, but she says she can't. She said, house for house and dollar for dollar, Richfield taxes are so much higher, so she doesn't plan on moving. When it comes to property taxes, I saw my 2018 school district taxes due to voter-approved levies and increased by $335 and $186 for a total of $521 from last year. A lot of people don't pay attention to their taxes because they're built in with their house payment. Those of us who pay our property taxes twice a year can't help but see the increases from year to year. And when it comes to roundabouts, I don't, the thought about having a roundabout at 66th, 67th, 68th, and 70th in Lindale is beyond my comprehension. It'll look like bumper cars out there. And I've talked to people that have family members that live in those senior buildings, and they say sometimes it takes those people in a walker the whole time to get across with a green light. They are not going to go out there and try to cross a roundabout by any means. And especially at 67th and, so I know it's going to go ahead at 66th and Lindale, but at 67th where there's McDonald's, where a lot of people go over there for coffee and, senior get-togethers, they're not going to be able to cross these roads. It's just unbelievable. And, when I read that in the Richfield Current last week, I had to read it 3 times before it set in. I could not believe it. Now, I don't want my tax dollars going for 4 roundabouts in 4 blocks. I don't know how the rest of you feel. You agree? I talked to another friend who said her mother lives at Village Shores, and her mother was approached by someone in the building there, and I should probably get closer here. But anyway, her friend needed to go to the beauty parlor over on 12th Avenue, I think it was 12th and 66th Street. Well, her mother didn't drive very much. She was like 90, but she said she'd take her there over, to get her hair done. And then they approached she said something about, well, now there's a roundabout at Portland, so I will tell you when to gun it. So she took, she's driving down 66th Street, and of course there's not all this stuff, built up already. And then she slowed down, and then she said, gun it! And then she went boom around like that, and went over the curbs like this, And thank goodness my friend said she stayed with this gal so that she wouldn't have to drive home and then drive back again to pick her up. And I just went through a roundabout at Portland, and as I'm in the roundabout, this guy comes from the northbound, just zooms, and it's like, he was like this. So these seniors are not adept at driving in these roundabouts as much as, you want to preach about it. And, anyway, I could go on and on. But anyway, I said, senior citizens won't be able to cross with no stoplights. Why did 3 extra roundabouts at 67th and 68th fall into the big picture? It will look like bumper cars, like I said. So anyway, what I'm here for is I don't feel that you know, there's $400,000 and $500,000 homes in my area, not me. But they in turn will be paying a higher amount, and we all drive the same roads, and you go down 66th Street, and all these people are coming from Burnsville and Apple Valley and Lakeville, because 66th Street is the new freeway. So they don't have to go, you know, for the medical facilities up there at France and 494, they don't have to make that great big loop at Crosstown, so they exit and then they go through. And being that I'm at 66th and Morgan, I saw plenty of people cutting through so they wouldn't have to get to the stoplight. So that's why I think if we've got to pay taxes on this, that we should all pay the same amount, because we're all paying the same amount when it comes to user fees on our electric and our gas bills and our streetlight fees. So I was a good friend of Larry Wisniewski's. You know, I wish Larry Wisniewski and Woody Dufay would be here. They would have all the right, they would have all their accurate numbers and would frequently, eloquently address the questions at hand. We missed you, Larry and Woody. Rest in peace. I hope a lot of you remember Larry Wisniewski and Woody. They were here at when their health was good, they were here at every city council meeting. And they knew the numbers, and they worked with you, Stephen Devich. I mean, you remember how accurate they were, right?
I don't want to comment on that. I don't have the same recollection as you do on that.
Because they were here at all the meetings, and they had a good hand about what's going on, and would question everybody about the numbers. And I think kept the city honest, or trustworthy, or brought things to light. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody else here to speak? Is there anybody else here to speak? All right.
Hi, my name is Sherry Kleist, and I live on 69th in Columbus. And I've lived in Richfield for 54 years, I believe. So we've seen a lot of changes. But a couple of the speakers, or the lady that just spoke about the 3 roundabouts on Lindale, who in the hell designed that? I mean, that is next to the high school where these kids come. There's a stop sign there. It's a dead end. It's safe as far as I'm concerned. You put these roundabouts there, and everybody in Richfield is getting used to them, except the older people drive slower, and you got all these younger people that fly through these intersections, and they are not safe for pedestrians and bicyclists, like people have said. And I've seen it. It's scary. I object strongly to having that many roundabouts on Lindale Avenue. It just don't make any sense to me at all. When I read that, I thought, are they kidding? I'm going back and read this again. I must have read something wrong. I just think that, what's the hurry of getting people to keep going through roundabouts like that? Especially when you got a dead end coming down 70th Street. They can stop. If there's no traffic, they can take a right-hand turn. The only person, you can't take a left-hand turn if you got a stoplight, but it changes pretty regular and pretty fast. So I'd like to talk to more and have more people tell me what good all those roundabouts are if they're supposed to be safer for who? The guy in the car? They're not safer for the kids on the bike? Or the people walking, and there is a lot of people over there by that park. So I think they ought to reconsider that very strongly, and I object to it. And I think people that, maybe other people, I always say when I go to church, it's 95% white-haired people in church, and I see very few young people. And so for a city with more seniors than there is young kids, I think they ought to take that a little bit into consideration too, because a lot of seniors that I've talked to, I don't worry about the roundabouts. They're okay, but I don't think that many should be there. And I've talked to a lot of seniors that have been avoiding the roundabouts, and they go in a different street, side street around residential area to avoid the roundabout. And now we're gonna keep putting more and more in here. I think they better think that over again. That's my opinion. And I wanted to voice that, so. It's my first meeting I've ever been to, and I've been here all these years because this upset me so much, I felt I had to come and say how I felt about that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. Would anybody else like to speak for the public forum?
Hi, I live, my name is Raven, and I kind of live close to, 66. I live on 74th and Bloomington. And every single, well, if once or twice a week probably, me and either just me and my PCA, or me, my PCA, and my fiance usually walk to Target, and that roundabout by Target, like, they drive through there so fast that I have to have my fiance go first so they can see someone, because there's a bush, or like a shrub right here, right next to me, where they literally cannot see me or my PCA or my fiance, and they drive so fast, I have to have him at least go to the edge first so they know to stop. And half the time, I'm just with my PCA as well. So, like, she has to, like, at least go to the end and then push me through so they know at least to stop. And it just scares me all the time because no one knows how fast to go through those. And it just bugs me. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on that so people knew about it.
I just want to say about the roundabouts, my concern from the beginning about them. Oh, my name is Judy Moe, and I'm her mom. I also work at a group home near Nicollet and 66th, and there are some people with disabilities, wheelchair or not wheelchair, who independently go to the hub. And they have to cross 66th and Nicollet. And so my concern from the beginning has been the safety for people with disabilities. And one gentleman I know, like someone else mentioned about someone who was elderly, it literally took the entire time of the light changing with the walk sign when there was a four-way to get to the other side. Like, you know, I would be nervous that he wasn't going to make it in time and sometimes hold up traffic. But so with this, I just don't understand. It just seems so dangerous to me, and I'm just really worried about it. And we have so many group homes in Richfield, and, you know, some of them are in that area. And, yeah, I mean, it just concerns me from that standpoint. Now, different than what the lady, I can't remember her name, spoke earlier, I was told by Sweet Streets that Nicollet and 66th, as well as Lindell and 66th, would have lights that you push for people, flashing lights, and then for people to stop. I was also told that they were going to have audio for the visually impaired, which the visually impaired, I think, is a way bigger issue than the people with different type of disabilities, because how are they supposed to know when to go? With a four-way, the audio tells them when to wait, there's click noises, tells them when to go ahead, etc. And I see people all the time on foot in Richfield, you know, with canes, so I assume they're sight impaired. And I just have no idea how they would even cross there. I read a study this past week about roundabouts and people who are visually impaired. And I don't remember the specifics, but it wasn't good. You know, it clearly was, there's really no good answer for them. But as I said, I was told by Sweet Streets that there would be both flashing lights and audio for people who are visually impaired. The issue with having audio for the visually impaired is because there isn't just one place to cross with the roundabouts. It's kind of like you cross a little bit here, then you cross a little bit in the middle, then you cross a little bit over there. And I mean, that is really confusing. The other issue is they don't have to just walk in a straight line anymore. They now have to maneuver these round sidewalks. And I mean, I am not visually impaired, obviously, but I just can't imagine how that would work. But so I just would like people to take into consideration the people with disabilities who are crossing there all the time, regardless of what type of disability. And I had only a couple days ago learned that she's been crossing on 66th and, well, near Bloomington. I knew she was crossing there, but I had no idea that there were these big bushes. When I found out, I went down to look at them, and sure enough, they're about this high. And so there's no way you could see, oh, okay. There's no way you could see children or, okay. So there's no way someone her size, a kid or whoever, would be seen trying to cross there. On two of the corners is where these bushes are. And I don't know if they just haven't been pruned properly or if they're really supposed to be like that permanently. But so it's definitely a safety concern. I mean, I just worry about it all the time. But I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you both. Is there anyone here for the public forum?
My name's Claire Killian. I live at 6300 Pillsbury Avenue. I've lived in Richfield for 26 years now. I also work in Richfield at Lindale and 66th, and I can tell you the vibration of the corner right now is horrible. We have so many seniors that live on that corner that try to get to Houlihan's for lunch, can't do it. Even when the stoplights were there, they couldn't get across. They walk over. Same with trying to go to Pizza Luch. People are not behaving. They are not watching traffic. The seniors across at City Bella Gramercy, they don't know how they're going to get across the street. Now they're going to have to get in their cars and use their roundabouts. And if you think you're going to put one on 67th to get to the Pines, take away part of McDonald's drive-throughs, then are you going to take away part of the Bartholomew House and part of Wood Lake Nature Center, part of Oak Grove Lutheran Church, part of the baseball soccer fields from Richfield High School? When is it going to end? The only place I can figure that we need a A roundabout is if you take Cedar Avenue in towards Lake Nokomis, because that's so backed up. That's the only other place I can think to put one. But we don't need any more roundabouts in Richfield. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for the public forum? Anyone else for the public forum? Anyone else for the public forum?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thanks for those that came here to speak. I just wanted to, for those here and watching at home, just to make a clarifying comment. I know there's strong opinions related to design, related to roundabouts. The action tonight related to our reconstruction plan does not speak to design, it speaks to funding. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilman Howard, that's correct.
Thank you. And then I just did want to comment on a few pieces, and there were some questions about whether there'll be flashing beacons, in particular on Nicollet and Lyndale. When that was before us, well over a year ago now, we talked a lot about pedestrian safety and the importance of flashing beacons, and also some design elements in terms of where the crosswalk will actually be situated. And so, is my understanding that's been part of the discussion and part of the plans, but I'm wondering if staff has additional comments on that front.
Yes, you're correct. That is part of the plan. We have the pedestrian activated flashers at all legs of the roundabouts going in on 66th Street.
And
they're
then,
audible. They are audible.
Okay, thank you. And then with our upcoming project with Lyndale, am I correct that there hasn't that level of specificity in terms of what we might have in way of roundabouts or other crosswalks hasn't been decided yet? And is that, or because that definitely, pedestrian safety at those locations and whether we have flashing beacons,
Sure.
The input here tonight and otherwise seems important. So
Right. Yeah, no, I think that, I don't know about the remark that maybe somebody had heard at an open house about it being cost prohibitive. I don't agree with that. I think that there's definitely room to add things like that in there in the final design.
Okay, thank you. And then just lastly, just to the comments about just the current state of the roundabout over on the east side there, I'm just wondering if we could have staff go take a look at some of those shrubs and just how that is interacting with pedestrians.
It's already on my list.
Very good.
Yeah.
If I may, just, Kristen, I think based on what we heard this evening, if in fact the roundabouts continue serially down Lyndale, I don't think I would accept anything but the ultimate move towards the safety, whatever's available, and I think that, and I recognize the comments about people still being uncomfortable with roundabouts, and I know that in some of the open houses they would talk, well, it's a little bit different, this is a 1 lane rather than a 2. I think 1 lane, 10 lane, or 7, like run around the Coliseum in Rome, they're intimidating to a lot of people. And so I'm not real comfortable saying you'll get used to it, or it's really not that difficult. It's a learning curve, and you avoid them or you go through them, and that takes care of the pedestrians. I'm really concerned, the drivers, I'm concerned about the pedestrians and make sure we do everything we can to ensure. And we've experimented, and I know when we were doing design talks on 66th Street and moving them back and everything, I think we need visual, we need audible, and what we need, particularly early on, is a significant police presence. So there's a fear factor for people going in, and they're gonna enter them and exit them in the proper speed and the proper manner. So I think safety is predominant, and regardless of how the design ends up, it should pervade every new street and everything we do in streets in and around Richfield, because otherwise, a misnomer to call them sweet streets if we're putting pedestrians at risk at any time, anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And I would agree, Mayor, if you don't mind, that roundabouts, I mean, safety is always number one for us, and roundabouts are a safety a tool, and they slow cars down, and that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to do on Lindale. So.
And I didn't ever doubt you, I think I needed to articulate it, and I think you did too, so that people understand that that is a preeminent thought on everybody's mind, both on staff and up here. Thank you.
I had a couple clarifying questions. So I appreciate Councilmember Howard just making the clarifying point that the focus of this is about the financing of the road reconstruction and not the design for tonight's vote. And because people are here, there was a couple things that came up that I was wondering if you could just, I know this has been shared in the past, but if we could just go over it again. A few issues that came up. So I'll just list them, and then maybe you can just speak to them in whatever order you would like. But can you just talk a little bit again about the rationale for the single lane roundabouts in a row? Because that came up a couple times. I know there's been concerns with residents about safety for the students and the proximity to the school. And I know that we've been in communication with the school district and the school board, so can you talk about what that communication has looked like? I know that that would obviously be a concern for the school district, so can you explain how those conversations have gone? And then, do you have any information or data on kind of the impacts of roundabouts with for folks with disabilities? Because that was an issue that came up as well. So those were just some things that I'm wondering if you could just talk to a little bit.
Sure, thank you, Councilmember Reagan-Gonzalez. So the single lane roundabouts, the idea and the reason that we ended up even looking at roundabouts in kind of a consecutive order was basically to limit the impacts, the right-of-way impacts along the corridor, Lakeshore Drive, and the way that it enters into Lindale Avenue came up right away at our first meeting as a huge concern from the residents in the area, and the left turns coming out of there, and we looked at limiting left turns out and doing different things without using roundabouts, and maybe just putting a median in, doing different things. And as the time went on with the different open houses, there was the concern of keeping left turn lanes by not having like roundabouts where you have that the mobility that allows for you to do U-turns and get around in the neighborhoods. If I had the layout, it'd be much easier to explain, but we have a much narrow median now along the corridor, and the roundabouts allow for people that need to access their homes or want to make a left turn but need to make a series of right turns to do that through the roundabouts. The mobility's there. When you look at the aerial and you see the graphic that Mr. Bros had presented at the couple meetings ago, you can just kind of see how much calmer that area will be with the roundabouts. The conversations that I heard and the discussion about people racing across 4 lanes and hardly making it before the walk was over in the existing condition. I mean, that to me, the roundabouts are going to serve those people very well because they only have to cross one direction of traffic. On Lindale, it's 1 lane. So literally, it's just a couple feet to get to the median, and then another single direction of traffic to get safely to the other side. That's the justification. That's how we landed there. The Transportation Commission looked at signals, looked at all the different alternatives. This is ultimately what they had recommended to the council for the design. Yes, we have been talking with the school. We have, I mean, that's the thing with the presence of a lot of students, that's even better. I mean, there's safety in numbers, and if there are, the more students that show up at the roundabout to use it, the more people will respect it. If you think of, if you're familiar at all with like Richfield or Minnehaha Parkway near the falls, there's that roundabout there, very similar in size. That there's people constantly around, and there's traffic there nonstop. I mean, people yield for pedestrians and bicyclists in those environments. It's not more people to hit by a car. It's more, it's going to bring the yielding on even when it's not busy with people. I think people will be used to seeing pedestrians in that area, and they'll be looking for them rather than speeding through. What else? I mean, you can add anything at any time too, Jeff, if I'm skipping anything.
Well, I think Ms. Asher summed it up pretty well. I will add, when it comes to the schools, that, you know, we're consistently looking at our peers and what's being done and trying to not, be the guinea pig. There are a couple of communities, Edina and Bemidji, that have built roundabouts either directly at or near schools. Bemidji actually has 3 roundabouts in a row that are going into the high school and into an elementary school. So, these are, as Kristen mentioned, they're safety devices. They're identified in the FHWA as safety devices. Signals are not. They're traffic control. So, safety is a priority for us, and we wouldn't recommend something we thought would be a detriment to that.
Mm-hmm. And finally, with the disabilities concern, and that's real, that's kind of a work in progress on every aspect, even at traffic signals. They're not foolproof in any sense of the word, for sight impaired or any disability. We'll do what we can, and we are always working with that. That's a constant moving target, because you learn what works better for people as time goes on, and then the industry adjusts to that. So we do have the rapid flashing beacons and the audible to go along with them as our tools, as well as the bumpy, I can't think of the word, for the blind, so they know that they're coming onto traffic. I can't think of the word.
Thank you.
Then I think I'm prepared to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the 5-year street reconstruction plan and authorizing the issuance of street reconstruction bonds to finance the 2019-2020 reconstruction projects.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, public hearing and consideration, and Councilmember Garcia will present that.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing and consideration of the adoption of a resolution for a preliminary plat of Lindale Gardens 2nd edition, which will incorporate 6328 Aldrich Avenue and reconfigure the existing lots and outlots of the Lindale Garden Center site to align with the approved development plans. The City Council approved The City Council approved land use plans for the former Lindale Garden Center site in an adjacent single-family home at 6328 Aldrich Avenue on June the 26th, 2018. Lindale Gardens, the applicant and property owner, is now proposing to plat land to align with approved development plans. The proposed plat of Lindale Gardens 2nd edition has been reviewed by the City Attorney's Office and staff. Prior to consideration of a final plat application, the applicant will be required to satisfactorily address all comments. No major issues are anticipated. This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to speak at the hearing, you have 3 minutes, and please come up and state your name and address and write it on the note paper. Anyone? This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
Okay, at this time, I move that we adopt a resolution for a preliminary plat of Lindale Gardens 2nd edition.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution is passed. Item number 7 has been removed from the calendar. Item number 8 will be addressed by Councilmember Reagan Gonzalez.
The next item on our agenda is consideration of an appeal of a therapeutic massage therapist license application for Deming Lai. On May 14th, 2018, staff received a therapeutic massage therapist license application for Deming Lai. It is unlawful to practice or provide massage services in the city without a therapist license. The required background investigation was completed, and the public safety director denied the therapeutic massage therapist license application on June 6, 2018, for failure to meet the eligibility criteria under the city code. The applicant did not provide the required evidence of good standing with the American Massage Therapy Association, the Associated Bodywork and Massage Professionals, or other organizations of therapeutic massage professionals having a similar code of ethics as approved by the public safety director. In addition, the applicant does not have the required 2 years of experience practicing massage therapy and submitted a copy of a diploma from a New Jersey institution that misrepresents dates of attendance based on the information obtained by staff during the background check. Section 1188.15 subsection 2 states that the public safety director must grant or deny the application and send notices to the applicant upon denial, informing the applicant of the right to appeal to the city within 14 days. Staff sent a letter stating reasons for the denial on June 6, 2018. Mr. Lai provided a written notice of appeal on June 20th. I will just hand it over to staff to give us any more information on this.
Thank you, Council Member. I think the facts are pretty clearly stated in the staff report. There's a reason that there is a lengthy background investigation, and the applicant did not meet the eligibility requirements. He is here this evening with an interpreter in the event that he would be given an opportunity to speak. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Mayor, should we allow him to speak?
I believe we should give him the courtesy of addressing the council.
Is Mr. Dye here? And if he is, would he like to speak? Yes. Can you come up, please, here and write your name down? Yes, if you could write your name and address, or Mr. Dye's name and address, please, on the paper. Thank you.
I have more information here for the new school the license, and the old one too. So I have the more public the license. So I try for the Richfield city here. So I have more information for first time for for hearing. So it's a new little nervous. So what the step for?
So you're saying that there's more information you have for the application?
Yeah.
So my understanding is that there is an existing application that was completed and submitted, and we weren't able to accept it because it didn't meet the requirements. So right now, today, the vote is to deny the application because it didn't meet the criteria. So if there's additional information, is there another application that's submitted, or how does that work?
Initially, an application was submitted early April, and that application packet was lacking some basic documentation. And so we sat down with Mr. Lai and the language line. We brought him into City Hall. So he had a clear understanding of the documents that were necessary to process the application. He then submitted a second application with an updated certificate of completion from a school in January of 2018 that he completed a course in massage therapy. And that's fine, but Richfield City Code states that you have to have 2 years of massage therapy experience. So with the first school certificate being deemed not valid because his dates of attendance that were listed were after the school had closed, he submitted the new certificate from the school in Roseville, but he's only got 6 months of experience, and he needs 2 years of experience to practice in the city of Richfield.
she talked about for the disclose for the of my old massage license, but I go to school at 2010. I have the good standing for the paperwork right here too, and also I go to I work for the St. Louis Park at the 2011. I applied for the St. Louis Park before too, so use the old one, but it's too many years. 2010 to now, it's about 8 years. Too long, not to remember too much stuff. But I know I use the old license apply for the St. Louis Park before, and also, but now they say the license need to the 2 years for the working and stuff like that. But I have the old one. I work massage is many years already. It's 8 years. I have the but you know, in city is different law. So in out of the state license in Minnesota, it doesn't work. So that's why I need to go to the public massage school for training and get a new license. So it's AAOA at Roswell. But I 2016 go to work, go to study, but because this is for per hour, because you not enough time, you not pay them, then finish money, they cannot get the license. So I have the training old one and the new one is long time already. But because I hand by hand get the paper, it's for 2011 because I not enough. It's too much money. I don't have too much money for pay full price. So they know for me the paperwork for the license. But the license should be is next 2016. I go to school already. They can check at my background at the 2016 at the Roswell. I go to school already, and also I apply for the St. Louis Park 2011. I have the ABMP, the massage license. It's 2011. Apply for the insurance, massage insurance, because the insurance I have a good standing. I don't know what step is get something wrong, but I go to the work at the St. Louis Park. I did apply and use my I have the license. I can apply for the insurance, massage insurance. So I have any information. I have training for a long time already.
Thank you.
Thank you
for the comments. Are there any additional comments on council or from staff? No.
I have a question. I just wanted to make sure you understood staff's concern about your application. And I couldn't quite, I tried to follow, but I'm not sure if I followed. So I just want to make sure you understand that based on the record we have, it looks like you submitted an application, correct me if I'm wrong, that shows you were at the school at a time when the school was not in operation or not certified. Do you have paperwork that maybe addresses that concern?
I don't know why I have the good standing paperwork here and massage license either. But
have you given that paperwork to the staff? Do they have that?
Before, not yet. Because now I have it because last time we have the meeting, but I'm first time for meeting. I don't know.
So
but I can show you here.
We cannot accept an incomplete or incorrect application, and there was multiple reasons listed that we have that the application was incorrect and incomplete, and so we cannot approve that application, and so that is what we're the decision that we're making today. If you have additional information, just like our staff has done in the past, I'm sure they would be happy to sit with you again and review additional information, but we cannot accept the application that you've submitted because it is incorrect. So thank you very much, and we can continue having conversations with you if you want. And you have our, do you know who to talk to in our city staff? You've met with them previously, correct?
Jennifer,
Yes, yes, correct.
She can help.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to make the motion to support the denial of the therapeutic massage therapist license application submitted by Deming Lai.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes.
Thank
Claims
you,
and
Mr.
payroll.
Lai. Thank you.
Thank you.
City
Oh,
manager.
see, boy, I'm just not reading right tonight. City Manager's report, Mr. Devich.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I really don't have a report to make this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I will move claims and payroll.
Thank you. I would second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There being no further business and no registrations for open forum, I would adjourn this meeting.